Land is a matter of life and death. It is survival.
Land is the root of farmers. As the old saying goes, workers are rooted in machines, farmers are rooted in land.
China's soil sowed the seeds of a revolution when Mao Zedong attracted millions of peasants with his promise to seize land from greedy landlords. 60 years later, China's development juggernaut is colliding with an increasingly defiant rural population, determined to protect what they consider their only security, their land. It is a battle the farmers are mostly losing. Huang Chuncha first lost his farmland, then his home. His land was taken in 2007 when construction began on a new development zone on the fringe of Nan'an City in southern Fujian province. Later, city officials told him they wanted his house to make way for a road. When Huang refused the city's terms, demolition crews flattened his home and seized his furniture, clothes, and his savings.
My father tried to stop them from destroying the house. They took him away and beat him.
Huang now lives in his father's old home next door. Without land, he says his choices are few. He can go to the city and search for work, or stay home and live in poverty. For now, he survives by recycling garbage for $3 to $4 a day.
In the past, I had land. Together with some money I made elsewhere, it was enough to raise the whole family. But now I have no solution. I don't know what I should do. I went to the court, but they didn't pay any attention.
The fate of China's land has been a governing challenge for centuries. It played a key role in the revolution that ushered the communists to power in 1949. Today, land rights remain one of the most combustible issues facing the growth-oriented ruling party, which must decide how far to go in dismantling policies established by its founding fathers, while improving conditions for the hundreds of millions of Chinese who live in rural areas.
What is the top priority in Chinese rural policy? Land. But what is the land working for? For rural households' survival, not for economic efficiency.
Mao Zedong had a very different aim for farmland when he launched the Great Leap Forward in 1958. Private plots were seized and pooled into huge people's communes. But the Great Leap Forward and the collectives took a heavy toll on villages like Xiaogang in rural Anhui province in eastern China. Nearly half of the people in Xiaogang died of starvation.
We were homeless beggars with no food or clothes. Those who stayed in Xiaogang to work on the land all starved. Others who left for other cities could at least beg for some rice and flour. Everyone else went hungry. I once vomited blood because of hunger.
In November 1978, Yan Junchang was a leader of a collective farm. He realized that to stay alive, he would have to take drastic measures.
I gathered some of the older villagers together and told them we could not continue to depend on the state. If Xiaogang stayed on this course, even the young people would starve to death. I asked, how could we save ourselves? The others said the only hope would be for each family to farm a unit of land suitable to feed themselves.
Yen and 17 other villagers made a secret pact to parcel the communal farmland into family plots. It was an illegal agreement, one that might have been seen as capitalist by the government and lead to their execution. But when local party leaders heard about it, they agreed to give them a chance. The next year, Xiaogang farmers posted record harvests, and its neighbors took notice.
Our lives completely changed the first year of the reform. The experiment greatly influenced the surrounding villages. The town government could not hold back the huge demand of nearby villages to adopt the new system.
China's central government embraced the so-called household responsibility system as the new model for rural land. The land remains the property of the state, but farmers are given 30-year leases to grow what they choose. It's a policy that has prevailed for 3 decades. Its founding has been enshrined by the Communist Party as a seminal moment in modern Chinese history, and Xiaogang Village has become a minor tourist attraction, complete with a museum and visitors center. But today, on this historic land, Yen's son is leading a new experiment that he believes represents a different future for rural China. Yen De-yo manages a 13-hectare vineyard, composed of household plots he has leased from 17 villagers. He's also cultivating a much larger tract nearby, which will be ready for harvest within 1 or 2 years. Though some might view his efforts as a reversal of his father, a move back to collectivization, Yen views it as a step toward modernization.
In the past, they only hoped to get rid of starvation, but now, after 30 years of the household responsibility system, farmers have their own land, and the problem of starvation is solved. So how can we further improve our lives? We can seek to improve our living conditions.
Yen claims his grapevines yield anywhere from 20 to 30 times more profit than he'd earn growing rice on a single household plot. He says the farmers who lease him the land are better off too.
Generally, the more they rent, the richer they are, because they have the time to do other business as well. In the past, they only had income from farming.
It's an idea that has caught on in Xiaogang. About 60% of the village farmland is now leased for industrial production of grapes, mushrooms, and livestock. China's central government also endorsed the idea last year, issuing a policy granting farmers the freedom to lease or subcontract their land use rights to boost the scale of farm production. Yen Junchang isn't convinced of his son's strategy.
I know he is under great pressure. He rents too much. Some say we should go back to the old ways. But the country would collapse in 3 years if the collective economy was restored. For the country's further development, land should continue to be farmed in family units.
But many farmers say China's current land system leaves them vulnerable to land grabs and exploitation. Without a clear policy giving them greater rights, even ownership, they warn China's rural masses may grow more and more restless. In recent years, China has been synonymous with explosive economic growth. Its GDP has ballooned to more than 14 times what it was 20 years ago, making China the third largest economy in the world. But this development has also exacted a price on the countryside. Since 1996, China has lost more than 8 million hectares of arable land, bringing it dangerously close to slipping below the government's declared target of 120 million hectares needed to feed the country. And while China's urban middle class has blossomed, many rural Chinese feel the boom has left them behind, or in some cases, even cost them their livelihood. At least 70 million farmers are estimated to have lost their land in the past decade. Some agreed to compensation terms with local governments. Some lost their land through violence. In 2005, hundreds of farmers from Shengyou village, less than 200 kilometers southwest of Beijing in Hebei province, set up a squatter camp to prevent the taking of their land for the construction of a power plant. Confrontation with police and local authorities had been brewing for months. Then, on June 11, 200 men armed with clubs, scythes, and hunting rifles launched an assault on the camp. The farmer who shot this video suffered a stab wound to his hip and a broken arm. 6 farmers and 1 attacker were killed, and about 50 people injured. The local party chief was sentenced to life in prison for his role in hiring the attackers to clear the disputed land. Such extreme violence is rare. Activists say more often, land is taken through flouting the legal system.
In some places, the requisition follows the law with reasonable compensation. But China is a one-party state with no news freedom, no freedom of speech. There are laws, but they are ineffective. So corrupt officials from different levels cheat land from farmers by force or trickery.
Villagers outside Nan'an City are facing such a struggle. They're waging a campaign against city officials to stop the seizure of an orchard of longan trees and bayberry that provided their source of income. Nan'an, in southern Fujian province, is part of a broad stretch of territory designated the west shore of the Taiwan Strait. The city government hopes to capitalize on a recent development boom in the region, especially as economic ties to Taiwan grow stronger. From 2003 to 2006, the government took 13 hectares of orchard from Xiamei town, leveled the trees, and opened the land to bids for development. So far, few have come.
We worked so hard in planting the fruit trees, yet we did not receive a cent. The value of what we lost is $1.5 million, for there were nearly 30,000 trees. I'm not against development. It should be supported. But they are not developing. They are just speculating in real estate.
Chen Pingsheng and other villagers are publishing a magazine detailing their plight, in hopes of finding support from higher levels of government. But going from the experience of others, their chance of success is small.
They don't care about farmers' lives at all. There are many policies from the central government which could benefit farmers, but the local officials are out of control. It's impossible to expect Prime Minister Wen Jiabao or President Hu Jintao to come investigate in Nan'an. Local officials just say the sky is high and the emperor is far away.
China, in name, is a country ruled by law, but actually it's a country of policemen. Administrative affairs should be resolved through administrative means, but in China, they're resolved by police. Even when farmers protect their land according to the law, the police are mobilized to suppress, beat, detain, and arrest farmers. This has encouraged local governments to become more rampant in misconduct, ignoring the law, and bullying the common people. Who should they be afraid of since they have armed police, prison, and handcuffs?
Liu Zhengyou is one of China's leading voices for those who have lost their land. He works to represent farmers and others who say they've been abused, investigating their claims, raising awareness in the media, and filing petitions in court.
I think all Chinese citizens with conscience and a sense of justice should stand up and speak out for the disadvantaged in protecting their rights. Now we face a powerful state apparatus, which is like a grinder to us. We should keep recording their sins. Eventually they will stand before the tribunal of history. For now we can do nothing but keep the record as evidence.
In his hometown of Zigong in Sichuan province, Liu says more than 50,000 farmers have lost their property. He has turned a tea house terrace into what he calls an unofficial petition office to listen to their stories. One who has sought his help is Qin Shoulin. She says the government cheated her out of her suburban land, destroying her small hotel and restaurant.
We thought the compensation by the government was too low. We refused to sign any contract with them, so they sent the police and took everything from us. They sent gangsters to follow us and watch us. They accused us of being bad people. They said we were Falun Gong. We are just poor people. Why do they want to ruin us?
Liu says it is cases like Chen's that demand a change in Chinese rural land policy.
I firmly believe that in the near future, land ownership will be returned to farmers. Most people have been awakened. They keep on struggling. As long as they don't give up, eventually they will get back land ownership. I have confidence.
You have more than 30% of the rural population of world in China. You only have 7% of land. And then you allow them to free market your land. So you may have more than 20% of the rural people lost land to be landless rural people. And then there must be big chaos. And then there must be secondary land erosion. And then thousands of people will die.
Wen Tiejun believes rural communities need empowerment, not privatization. As the head of the School of Agriculture at one of China's top universities, he has a role in helping shape government policy. Wen has worked to set up cooperatives in more than 50 villages across China, where local residents work together to run small and medium enterprises.
We are trying to initiate innovation, not revolution. Innovation means that gradually change the system, help people organize themselves, and then empower themselves.
That's what happened over 20 years ago in the village of Zhengezhuang on the outskirts of Beijing. Li Yongquan and a group of other farmers decided to begin a construction business and pooled together nearly $15,000 to buy equipment.
Before reform and opening up, we mainly focused on farming our land. Later, after several rounds of discussions, we decided to take an active role in becoming rich.
The construction work turned a profit, and the company gradually bloomed into a massive business empire. It is now a major corporation worth more than $8 billion, with 50 subsidiaries managing construction, real estate, manufacturing, tourism, and education. The Hongfu Group, as it is named, has transformed Zhengezhuang into a business and residential park, with traditional shopping streets, hotels, and even a water park.
Our village does not have the problem of losing land. It's collective ownership, with the rights of belonging to each family. The profits go back to the villagers. It's not like other places where land has been sold to developers and farmers lost both their work and profit.
Yet demands for greater control over land are growing louder. Of the nearly 100,000 peasant disturbances that erupt each year in China, as many as half stem from land disputes.
For now, farmers mostly care about the short term and fight for their own interests. But when it becomes irreversible, with more and more land seized, exploited and persecuted farmers will have a deep understanding of the root of all the problems of one-party dictatorship. Then there will be a greater awakening. There will be communication among them and a united movement.
If you want to develop, you still need farmers, and farmers need to be motivated to farm well. I believe if the country wants to get rich, attention must be focused on farmers. Otherwise, if no farmers remain on the land, our country's development will immediately stop.
The peasantry that stood as the vanguard of a revolution may yet decide China's future.